joining us today. I know we were supposed to do this yesterday, but everything was just working against us, as it usually does, Fuad?
Well, I would blame. Did you not blame the heat for that? It was a lot of.
I did. I did. I mean, our equipment was just not having a fun time. It turns out the Camlink sticks, not calling out Camlink, but they get mighty hot, and that is not good when you're in non-air conditioned spaces.
Yeah, and
So what are
I
we
imagine
talking
you
about today?
working at a garage.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be close to nature. I'm in a basement, but like, I guess, well, we're still at 77% humidity down here, so that's fun.
Oh my goodness.
Um, so moving along, everybody knows it's hot. They're living it. Something else we all know about the status of healthcare in Canada and the U.S. and the globe. So let's dive right into how we can transform work for healthcare professionals.
Well, it's been a long time. We've been hearing that uh, collaboration is a very, very challenging part, and that's due to many things. And one, of course, is the security around it that we need to protect sensitive data. Um, the and and I think as we saw a lot of other domains really evolving. I mean, think of any EMR versus marketers would know Monday.com, right?
Hmm.
And, and there are no assistive intelligence or assistive tools that alleviate your work. As a result, I mean, not just as a result, there are many other factors, but healthcare providers have long days, no matter whether you're a physician or admin, wherever if you are in the ecosystem of healthcare, you have we hear. I mean, burnout is a very serious uh, very, very, very common sentiment. We also hear that there's not enough of us working in healthcare to fill the gap, and so efficiency is really, really a critical thing now. But in terms of what technology brings now, and if we talk about also the capabilities in terms of security and cloud, I think in the last couple of years, there have been a tremendous leap in technology that healthcare domain now is already adopting, as we can see. We'll see some case studies here, and that's
It's
transforming how we
it's
work. Um,
it seems like a slow uptake though, Fawad, because I was just having a conversation with my mom last night, and she works for a home care provider, and the state of their systems is interesting because it seems like they're still doing remote desktops into the secure network rather than bringing it with them. And we're going to get into this a little later, but it seems like we're still like using yesterday's tech in a lot of these
you're,
providers.
I mean, your mom is absolutely right, but what your mom's referring to virtual desktop, uh, that was actually cutting edge until just a couple of years ago, because
Well,
that,
yeah, but I mean it's
that
still slow, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even if you look at it now, many private clinics to even large, institutions like hospitals, they have a VPN every time they want to log in, and that's a pain, and that's time taken away from you. It's not always instant, and it's not always very fast. Let's go back to that your mom's experience again. Um, uh, the virtual desktop, I think we have all seen it. It's not very delightful experience. If you could remove that, imagine.
It
Im-
was it was the opposite of that from her perspective.
um, oh, yeah, absolutely. But you'd be surprised, or you are not, Justin, because you are in this domain. But there are clinics still don't have that capability, cloud capability. Your
Even
mom's
that,
are,
yeah.
I mean, your mom's organization, at least the staffs, around the country, depending on how large their organization is, they can still access the data, but it's slow, and we need to solve that as well. And Google does that. You'd be able to remove your VPN, and imagine if you can bring that kind of seamless experience. that Google delivers into enterprise solutions using their workspace for collaborating with colleagues and their customers, if the same thing could be incorporated, I think we're going to see a shift in terms of how we work in healthcare. There would be new capabilities that we're not used to in the healthcare, and that I think will contribute to shaping how we collaborate with patients and colleagues in the coming months and years to
Yeah,
come.
absolutely. So, all right, what is out there? What do we need to tell these folks?
Oh well, I think let's talk about let's get straight to the points. Google Workspace brings tremendous amount of capabilities for healthcare out of the box. When you have all of the check boxes for your HIPAA compliancy done, you'd be able to collaborate seamlessly, just like you work workspace in any other business. That that again brings the capabilities of communicating with patients through mediums that we were not very used to, like, let's say, communication with email securely, communications with Google Docs, and being able to share within the organization and collaborate with, with comments, taggings, collaborate with admins, time to getting responses, and removing those obstacles of collaboration. You don't have to be in the office. The physicians, who are going home early to do some paperwork, they'll be able to do that. Um, uh,
Well, I mean, we know from our experiences in with working with healthcare professionals. I mean, trying to nail down a time that everyone can be in the same room and talking about the same things, it's almost impossible because the entire industry is go go go. So bringing the tools and the data and the conversations to the medical professional is more important than ever. Um, because it's almost impossible otherwise. I mean, you're talking about adding additional hours to already long hours if you want to like have a team meeting.
the virtual care that comes almost built in the ecosystem. Imagine all that power working along with your email, Google Docs, Google Sheets. You can build quick apps. One of the biggest tools that Workspace provides that healthcare providers could leverage is the ability to create forms, secure forms. And you don't have to know coding. It is actually such a rich experience, drag and drop type. And then you don't even have to embed that form anywhere. You could simply publish that form and start collecting your patient's feedback, your patient's, continuous entries of data that you probably want to collect from them. And all that could be automated, analyzed out of the box. If you just click another tab, you'd be able to see, some out of the box analytics that would help you get insights right away. Um, so much that just, you know, and as well, the native features that Google Workspace brings in terms of, you write in Google Docs or email, it has assistive intelligence to help you complete your thought. That's that's huge part of productivity. If you look at aggregated gain of time through that across the organization, you're saving millions of minutes, hours.
Which is big. I mean, it's an already stretched to the limit system. I mean, like you've said, there's staffing concerns, there's efficiency concerns. So every minute saved is better for care, but it's also better for the people working in the industry,
Uh,
who are at their breaking point. So I mean, every minute shared, every bit of respect you can give to their time, that's a huge improvement for your organization.
oh, absolutely right. And earlier, Justin, I was actually talking to um, one of the mental health institutions in our region, and they said one of their biggest problem is to share patient insights, data across their organization. They have to first download it, um,
Oof.
with some notifications and prompts, and then upload it to share, securely. So there was no portability, so imagine things that you could do with, if you're using Google Drive for your patient information, that would be just a couple of clicks. You're saving about 5 to 7 minutes. If I want to share an image or a report, this needs to be, you know, exactly like you and I work in an enterprise kind of way. And I think that's the leap forward that we're going to see. And this, the capabilities weren't there before, right? All of this,
Right.
these are recent capabilities. So I'm not going to say they're slow, but I think maybe the onus was on us, the technology developers, who always really concentrated and emphasized on the larger things. For example, you would see, we were just in uh, a webinar this morning, and it was about cognitive testing. Cognitive testing is heavily used in the healthcare products.
Mhm.
But so what I'm trying to say that there are so many innovation in healthcare, and they're actually early adopters. But in the higher level, in terms of, let's say, identifying treatments, identifying medications in the pharmaceutical industry and so forth, but there weren't enough emphasis in terms of making healthcare providers more productive, saving them hours per day so that they can not only save time, but also have all of this other intelligence, assistive intelligence around their work to help them complete their work faster. So you have less burnout as well.
Well, and I think that's where these healthcare providers kind of run into a hard spot, right? Because they already don't have time. I mean, we know from our doctor contacts that even doing notes is an end of the day thing. I mean, this is a 12-hour day for them. I mean, they see patients for 8 hours and then write notes and do whatever they can for their business, in that last few hours. So, I mean, are they going to spend that time they already don't have looking for these solutions? No, I mean, they have to partner with the experts on these types of things, or else they'll never know what the possibilities are out there. I mean, it's uh, it's technology that solves a problem that people don't have time to solve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the biggest problem that would be alleviated from, in terms of clinical perspective, is the operational efficiencies. Um, with Google Workspace, you'd be able to understand how is your space being utilized with calendar analytics and so forth. You'd understand which room could be utilized more, which room could be utilized less, which resources needs more attention and so forth. You'd be able to increase in terms of, make your receptionist more and admins more productive by adopting self check-in of your patients. Those kind of things could be uh, very easily built. And as your staffs, usually most of us were uh, introduced to Google Workspace or Google in our education system. So coming to work, the training perspective as well is significantly reduced, because uh, your staff would come with the knowledge they need to operate with your platform.
I found that very interesting when we did that implementation a couple years ago, and it was the newest team member that had just been a recent grad, or a very few years into the industry, who was the internal advocate for the entire Google
Right.
system because she knew it inside and out. With a few pieces of training, she was able to help everyone in that office. And I forget who we were talking to the other day, and that was their suggestion on implementing projects like this: is you have to find your advocates in every department.
This is a big part of the change management, and that's a great example. And I think if I think we could mention them. It was face.ca, um,
Hmm.
and she was actually one of the project sponsor, almost, team leader in terms of advocacy internally. And as part of change management, it is very, very important. In a large organization, you'll need to find, many, depending on their teams and groups and so forth. But yes, that's a fascinating point, that that your staff members could actually, their time to adoption would be much lesser than a custom solution. When you build your own, or you are actually getting it from another vendor. Google Workspace brings those familiarity. Now the question could be just in, you know, the interoperability. Clinics have an EMR that doesn't really solve their collaboration problem. Google Workspace solves all of this productivity and collaboration, communication seamlessly. It reduces time. It reduces, a lot of challenges, but that interoperability often would be the current problem, which we also going to see that will happen soon. Vendors like Salesforce, for example, they have Salesforce Health that actually integrates with collaboration platform like Google, Microsoft. Zoho does the same. They sign BAA as a CRM. You could use it as an EMR, and there are other vendors who actually have opened up to integrate with these kind of platforms. For those that do not, it's still so much valuable to collaborate, make your clinic more efficient, use this platform for communication, efficiency, and so forth, while your EMR is being used as a database of patient. You still would gain so much from these two somewhat isolated platform until your platform decides to open up and you integrate with them. But most large vendors, they have APIs and so forth that you'd be able to
Hmm.
integrate the access communication between the two. And what that means is, imagine you receive an email from a patient. As that email is being opened, you also open the context of that patient in the EMR side by side. Now you have more context. So so things like that could happen any day, anytime, depending on your vendors, who you are with, and how fast they're working on this interoperability. That is.
That's all exciting stuff, right? Because I think that's the thing that a lot of people get hung up on is like, I have my EMR, and that's where the patients live. So how do I integrate everything else? And it's kind of like, well, no. I mean, you're gonna have your patient's data in the EMR. That's what it's built for. But then, all the interactions with them can be so much more smooth in a more integrated system where you have all your staff members in one place. You have all your email. You have all your documents. You have the ability to seamlessly share and collaborate. And I think um, we're probably not going to get too big into the sharing collaborating today, but if anyone wants to actually join us on Friday, we're going to be looking at the business end of Google Workspace, and we'll see a lot of that on that presentation. And you can kind of start getting some ideas on how it works in healthcare as well.
Justin, I wanted to add before you forget, one of another big problem in healthcare domain is scheduling. The scheduling internally,
Absolutely.
and scheduling also the management of scheduling of appointments and bookings and so forth. Um, we often see clinics also take requests on a form on a website. When would you like to come in, and so forth? But it's not connected with the data so that it could be served immediately at that
Yeah,
point.
it's just sending an
Um,
email most of the time.
right, and that's where digital transformation really fails, because it's doing 1/10 of the job in a broken way, right? Where humans have so much responsibility to make sure to take that to the next step. Um, Again, those kind of things, could be very easily managed. For example, you could actually have booking page and connect it to clinics and doctors and whatever calendar you need to connect it with. And your end user at midnight could actually do a self-serving booking, or modification to their booking. Imagine the power of that. Or think about a smartphone communication system, Workspace and Ring Central or Dialpad, or plus Google Cloud's AI like Dialogflow and so forth, that could handle 80 to 85% of the call, um, before it comes to the human. So if you could reduce, 30% of the call in small clinics, whenever we call, we hear, "Thank you for calling XYZ Dental Clinic. Please hold." And then they're gone for 5 minutes. Comes back. They're overwhelmed with calls. As a patient, I couldn't even say that, I have an emergency. Let's talk, even though I should less. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So if you could give almost human-like experience, understanding all of this intents and so forth, connecting with your workspace data, connecting with your, you know, a lot could be automated.
And I think that's another thing that's important to note is that like a lot of these care providers, like when you think of a care provider, you might be stuck in the all right, this is my family doctor, this is a walk-in clinic. But yeah, we're looking at dentists, we're looking at people that provide chiropractic care, rehabilitation, home care, and these are competitive markets in healthcare. I mean, you have choices in these sectors in a lot of cases. So delighting that customer, delighting that prospective patient. Um, your goal is to make a lifelong patient out of them. They want to build a relationship with you. You want to build a relationship with them. So the first experience is going to be telling of how that relationship is going to go. So I mean, in that case, you use the dentist. Me on hold for 5 minutes I have searing, pain in my teeth. I'm probably not going to be too thrilled that I had to hold when I want immediate answers because I'm very concerned. Um, so yeah, that time to the first contact, time to information, time to scheduling is so important.
And you mentioned an important topic as well, the home care. Google Workspace and Google other cloud, and of course, let's talk about multi-cloud, AWS, and so many other things combined together, or just Google Workspace alone, you could seamlessly operate a team of frontliners, going to different places, different homes, and they would imagine they can have a very, the same way of access to data, patient data, when they are outside of the hospital, um, without logging into VPN, and your organization being able to manage the location of that device, how that device is, whether you have any suspicious activity going on or not, if you need to immediately suspend that device, all of those capabilities, including the fan speed, let's say, if that comes to be, to a threshold that you need to be worried about, all of those things are instantly available to the admins so they can.
And I just want to back it up to a point you made very very early in this that made me uncomfortable. It's when you said that there was a downloading and upload process of files, which means it was brought onto a local machine, and I find that so anxiety inducing when we're talking about something as private as medical information, because the second your file exists on a local hard drive, like computers, devices get lost all the time. And I mean, it's so much better to have that information live in the cloud because, how many times have you heard of a laptop being stolen? That's like a daily occurrence. And how many times have you heard of Google's cloud being stolen?
That's
Living
crazy.
in the
But
cloud in a secure environment is just like the best place for this information.
now, this is a great point. This organization that locally I was talking to, they are, it's on them. The onus is on them to delete it from the local drive within the 5 minutes of, you know. But that's crazy in today's era, right? You have to be able to do seamlessly. Um,
In a past life, I was in charge of making sure that the accounting computer never had spreadsheets on it. You know what it always had whenever I checked?
Tell me.
Spreadsheets full of financial data.
Amazing. Amazing. I mean, we haven't talked about all these other advanced capabilities, but we wanted to give some overview. Uh, um, we didn't share any screen today, but I think we're going to do a series of transformation in healthcare, and would be going and would be diving much deeper from high level overview to even, for admins in healthcare, what information they would need. For example, how do they manage the compliance if someone is, giving out information in emails that they're not supposed to? Do you have the visibility of that? Do you have the manageability of that? Well, it absolutely yes, but we're going to go through all those granularities and details in our next series to come, where we're also going to
Absolutely, and
show.
it's
Sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was just
No, I
going to
was going to say
mention.
it's a very complex topic, right? Because there's like when you say healthcare, there's so many different sectors in it, and there's so many specific tools they need, and there's so many specific solutions for those problems. So I mean, yeah, this is definitely going to be a whole series thing for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think we should dive into specific benefits that you talked about: collaboration,
Definitely.
productivity, efficiency, from a patient's perspective, from a doctor's perspective, from an operator's perspective. Um, yeah, I'm really looking forward to those series as we'd be announcing them as we come up with dates.
So for we got a comment that's pretty interesting here. I'm going to pop it up on screen. In addition to EMRs, some doctors have their own patient portals where they have patient-doctor communication, scheduling component, and telemedicine portal. It would be interesting to see how these tools can be improved with smart minute taking and prompting functions, and that's actually interesting because that's something we're working on, isn't it?
Absolutely. So this prompting, and I mean, that's a great idea, and that is precisely what smart cognitive intelligence would allow in this era, kind of, to get us things done much faster than we used to. Context would be given to us, almost before we ask for it, and that removes all those mini micro steps during our day-to-day work. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you would be like, what, I'm done much faster. Delighted.
And it's so very doable with conversational intelligence. Like our friend Blue Cap here, who's doing this as our third co-host here. Um, and there's such a world of APIs that Amazon has been working on for medical too. It's exciting. I don't know how much we want to get into that right now because it's a bit of a separate thing. But I thought that was a very interesting comment.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, the same concept could also be used. Imagine, I mean, now we are going to deeper topics for validation for different decision. Um, Imagine every important decision I make in my work process, if I also have some ability of validating my decision. um, I don't I mean, that's what AI is really good for, and that's what, um, when you have all the data available, having those predictions and validating, self-validating, is really a great, augmented intelligence for doing things with better outcomes,
Absolutely.
especially in healthcare, right? I mean, you and I, as a patient, we want to get the best outcome every time. We want them to rethink
I
twice.
have a vested interest in that. Yes. But
Yes.
it's cool because and just even the smart minute taking and prompting is so important too because like I said, that note that the
Yes.
doctor doesn't always happen in real time. I mean, sometimes it's at the end of the day, so that we're relying on recall for the nuance of it, and maybe some audio playback. I know a lot of doctors like to use softwares like Dragon for the dictation and recordings. But I mean, the added insight that AI can provide is helpful in that situation. The fact that you can do most of the work during the
Absolutely.
consultation is huge.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't talked about those added extensions of productivity that you can bring converged into, Google Workspace platform. I mean, this is a living example. Our Blue Cap, it actually, integrated with Google Workspace Calendar. It automatically comes to my meetings for me, and it takes meeting notes for me. Um, Whoever joins my meetings will often see that Justin and I, we almost never take notes. But it's not that we are forgetting about, mission critical things from the meetings and so forth. Blue Cap is doing that for us, and And that enables Justin and myself, a little bit more opportunities to delight our participants a little bit more. We're more focused, um, and
Well,
yeah, it's,
I love it in the troubleshooting space too, because when I have a
yes,
problem, there's a bug with a client. Often, when you're taking the initial request from them, and I'll say it's a little bit like medicine in the case that there's a problem and you're trying to solve it. It's nice to be able to go back and reference the nuance of it, to be able to review that specific moment in the conversation where you get that slight detail that could be the make or break. um, that specific thing that someone said that, oh yes, that is actually the problem. So being able to go back and review that at my leisure, and to look at the repeat topics of a conversation, it just helps you get to the root of the problem, so much quicker. And I believe that's what most medical professionals are. They're troubleshooters.
absolutely. And I think there are a lot of tools out there even now to, including ours, that enables you to almost automate, uh, touchless, uh, any taskless kind of, writing your medical notes when you consult your patient. You hardly have to almost do anything. Blue Cap has an extension where it actually summarizes your medical consultation almost to 80 to 90% accurate, and you just have to provide some feedback, some additional information, and a 15 minutes job could be reduced to 2 minutes. That's huge productivity,
Mm.
100%.
And
And
I think an important point though, Fuad, is that all this neat stuff with the AI and the futuristic stuff you can do, you need to build that technology base in order to get there. You need to have the tools set up in order to actually add these to your ecosystem in a meaningful way. Because without a strong foundation, I mean, AI thrives on data, right? So without
absolutely,
the data streams being set up and the actual collaboration tools and your basis for this technology, it's very difficult to say, all right, I want an AI now, and you're using, like, I don't know, pop email. It's just, you have to start somewhere, and it's things like Google Workspace or the equivalents that are truly hugely important so you can get to this point.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you have to start with that, and there are so many other features that you will self-explore, or tactically you'd be given training and so forth to explore deeper. For example, Data Studio. It was long been waiting from healthcare data scientists to have Data Studio HIPAA compliant. That was only, I think, somewhere in between the beginning of the year, uh, um, or maybe end of last year, when they announced that Data Studio was HIPAA compliant. And imagine if you're tech savvy, if you're data savvy, now you know what kind of things you can analyze and visualize in Data Studio from your EMR data, from your patient interaction data. You can actually now track patient symptoms and diagnosis, and now you can lead to predictions from there. Um, as Justin was saying, to go there, it'll take some time, but the foundation, almost right out of the box, the Google Workspace, it gives you 30 to 40%, that transformation that you long been waiting for, the ability to work from anywhere in healthcare. Um, that's crazy, right? That's
Absolutely.
that's already there now. Of course, to fully leverage the other 70%, it's time and maturity of your experience, and as well as technology. Bringing all of those things together so that they uniformly talk to each other, and managing and maintaining that uniformity so that your insights, and yeah, that certainly requires a lot of work, some work.
Definitely. Well, I mean, you need a lot of help, we'll say.
Right, right, absolutely.
So, all right. So we've talked a lot about the problems in healthcare, some very high level solutions to it. Anything else you want to leave everyone with?
No, maybe just a few bullet points of things, and maybe a link to a security white paper for healthcare for Google Workspace. I think that's one of the biggest concern, is that is Google Cloud and Google Workspace Are they ready for healthcare? Are they certified? Are they compliant? Uh, while the answer is probably more than many others, the things that you are using now, but the answer is absolutely yes. You would be not just compliant, uh, you would be on the most secured platform than any other brood platforms.
Exactly.
So the bullet point is your collaboration. I mean, with your colleagues, patients, you have immense new capabilities to do that securely and safely. And within these collaboration tools and productivity tools, you have tremendous, AI in the native of the application to help you do things much faster. Your calendar related problems would be disappearing very soon from the perspective of patients and as well as internally. Your overall uh, optimization of scheduling could alone drive a lot of significant gain. The next thing is, of course, your ability to really become remote and hybrid. Imagine being able to deliver virtual care from Google Meet with your context of patient information and so forth baked in one place, and as well as features that Google has. It'd be hard to match with any other platform, such as being able to even translate in real time as you were speaking. If the patient doesn't speak, if you don't speak the same language, there is assistive intelligence in real time to help you communicate better. And many other things, as you know, using Google. We're going to go deeper in the next sessions for those. So those are the high level points. Um,
And
and
I
when
want
we,
to point out, for although they may not necessarily be healthcare specific, they absolutely apply to you. So as we do these future sessions, even if it's a business one, tune in because it's totally worth it and totally relevant.
absolutely, yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. You had one more point.
No, I think that's it. Let me bring the
Perfect.
white paper here link, and I'll post it right here.
Perfect. Is that going to be on the LinkedIn? I guess. I guess we're streaming to a bunch of places. I'll send that out.
I'm doing it through Restream now. Let's see
Yeah,
where.
we'll see where it ends up. I mean, I'm still the chat part of this is still a minor mystery to me because some of them work differently than others, but we'll see where it ends up.
Well, it didn't work. It said, "Uh oh."
It didn't work. Oh no. All right, we got to do some learning on that.
Yes, or we'll just yes, absolutely
Well, you
learning.
should probably just edit the events, add the links, add the comments, and that's probably the best way to do that. So, everyone, check back in the comments. We're gonna drop that there. Any final words, Fuad?
No, well, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in more healthcare cloud sessions in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for commenting, listening, joining in.